Welcome back, folks. It's been a while since we did a health podcast for you guys. We wanted to go into the subject of GLPs, that magical designer peptide that allows you to get slightly unaddicted to food and lose weight and also burn muscle in the process is, I think, the issue.
Yeah.
Let's get into this.
Yeah, I thought I was curious myself, and we have mixed feelings about this. So I thought, hey, why not talk about this somewhat controversial topic on our show? And it is one of the most consequential shifts in modern medicine. And I think probably most of us know somebody who's on this by now. I think the statistics are pretty staggering, and they keep coming out with new and better medications. So I thought, hey, let's talk about this topic, especially since it relates to the topic of leverage, right? And high performers, professionals, entrepreneurs, we all love the idea of leverage, but this is a topic that deals with health. So I thought, let's dive into it and see where this goes.
And I'm not the health professional. I'm just a guy who likes to work out. I've done some peptides here and there, none of the GLPs though. But I think maybe we start off with the basics, Poe. If you can, what is this stuff? What's a peptide? Like, is this testosterone? Is it growth hormone? Is it steroids? What is this thing? Or is it just like vitamins? Let's start
Yeah,
off.
most of us have probably heard by now of medications such as Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. Just to review, these medicines were initially designed to treat diabetes, and then they realized that, hey, it's actually pretty effective in making people lose weight, even those people who don't have diabetes. And the
One of the many things it did was lowering their A1C and blood sugar. Is that what it did? Or like what?
So GLP-1 receptor agonists, they basically mimic a natural hormone that we secrete in our intestine that increases satiety. Right? Our bodies naturally release this this compound when food passes through a certain part of the intestine, right? Which makes sense, right? Because you want a natural signal to tell your body to, hey, slow down on the food, or you're getting full, right? It's just one of many hormones that does this, but this is the one that's being targeted with this medication. Right? GLP-1 receptor agonists, in addition to increasing your sense of feeling full, it also slows down your gastric emptying. It reduces appetite signaling. Right? This compound actually acts on your midbrain in your central nervous system to tell yourself to stop eating. Right? And in the process, it improves your insulin secretion and overall glucose control. Right? Very helpful for diabetes, but they found that, hey, it didn't take long for them to figure out that, hey, there could be a huge use for this beyond just treating diabetes.
So basically, it makes you not hungry, so you stop eating, and
Yeah.
obviously that has other benefits. But I think what's interesting about what I'm learning about peptides is peptides are the instructions for your body to do certain things. Some things impact your brain, and I think that's what you're saying. GLP-1s impact the brain part.
Yeah.
Others signal, hey, let's make growth hormone production. Let's do this. Let's regrow cartilage. So it can be body pathways or mental pathway. But I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I always, sometimes you see like the worst inside of people. And I have this saying where everybody is addicted to something. If you eat garbage, some people get a heart attack, some people will get Alzheimer's, some people get cancer. Like your funk turns into whatever. I think like in terms of vices, especially when you have money, it's either like alcohol, food,
Hmm.
sex,
Yeah.
like smoking.
Yeah.
And I think food is definitely one. I would probably say food is my one of my things. I love eating good food.
Oh, I can definitely relate.
But you're no
Yeah.
fatty, Paul.
Maybe that's why I run a lot
Yeah.
because I like my food.
Yeah, you're like, I think when I think of this stuff, I think of it like interchangeable with cocaine or sugar, right? Like you're addicted to this thing.
Yeah, it essentially that's the mechanism by which the change is being affected. So just to back up for a sec. So GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1 for those who are wondering what the heck it stands for. And again, it's a naturally occurring peptide hormone that is released after you eat. Right? So in studies, I mean, they found that the results were pretty remarkable. So in one of the trials called Step 1, study participants who did not have diabetes taking one of these medicines called semaglutide. It took a weekly. They lost about 15% of their body weight over 68 weeks compared to just 2 to 3% with placebo. And in another trial called Surmount-1 of a similar medication, giving participants this medication was weight loss approaching 20% over 72 weeks. So pretty remarkable results. And then cardiovascular outcome trials also have demonstrated reductions in major adverse cardiovascular events in high-risk populations, which makes sense, right? Because a lot of the cardiovascular morbidity is associated with obesity, right? In medicine, even if you're not obese, having diabetes itself is a cardiovascular risk factor. These are really clinically meaningful effects. These studies are legitimate, and this isn't some sort of like fringe science stuff. So like the effects are pretty real, and the millions of people taking this can probably attest to that. But we'll go more of the nuance behind it and some of the pros and cons.
Yeah. I think everybody would agree, like the results from it are amazing, right?
Yeah.
You have popular culture kind of memes on it of the Ozempic butt, or people who like look like ostriches because they're so skinny and their head is still big.
Yeah.
What's the bad thing?
You're good bad things.
Yeah, let's go with the bad stuff first, right? Like to me, just on the surface, like I heard that it breaks down, like you lose muscle too.
Yeah, that is oftentimes the case that when you're losing like significant weight, you oftentimes do, if not always, lose muscle mass with it as well. That is certainly one of the things to keep in mind.
And why is that? Is it because like instead of eating 2,500 calories, now you're going to 1,500 because you just don't eat? Is that basically what it is? Or is it breaking down muscle to make up for a calorie deficiency? Or is there something else weird going on?
I think the main mechanism is that when you're reducing hunger, you're essentially making yourself go into a caloric deficit, right? So you're not taking in as much food, but that can easily turn into you're actually not getting enough of your macronutrients. So yes, so you're losing weight, but it's quite likely possible, unless you're very intentional about it, that you're not getting in your necessary nutrients, includes protein. Yeah, and so that is one of the things to really be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed, I've come across more and more folks, professionals, type B people who are on these medications, and that got me interested in it. And initially, I had very mixed reactions about this, but then did some research and thought about it, and yeah, figured it's a good topic to talk about because I'm sure at least some of our listeners are probably considering this. It's a topic that oftentimes it can evoke strong reactions, right? Because some people see this as, hey, this is like an awesome medical breakthrough. Other people worry about, oh my gosh, is this yet another way of contributing to the medicalization of lifestyle, right? Is this taking a shortcut, right? Is this taking the easy way out, right? Some people will see it as, hey, this is a strategic tool, just like AI is, or one of the other things that we leverage for productivity, right? Other people wonder whether taking what they see as a quote unquote shortcut like, erodes things like discipline, right? What happened to good old diet and exercise? There's pretty strong opinions that exist. Yeah, but but that's why it is a nuanced topic.
I would say like because this has been out for more than a decade, so it's nothing that new. My initial thought was, and hopefully people don't get upset by it, but I'm like, oh, this is an easy pill. I think most type A people like frown upon this type of thing. But the way I look at it is, look, people are addicted to food. I guess I am, so I empathize with it. And if this can break the chain a little bit and get you a little bit of momentum in the positive direction,
Yeah.
I think you give drug addicts medication to help them off the withdrawal systems, right? That's a little bit different, but essentially it helps them go down the right path.
Almost as a bridge to get them from point A to point B. Yeah, absolutely.
If you look at any Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, if you haven't seen it, generally what happens is people trade in the hard drugs for cigarettes, and it looks like a bunch of chimney smoking up there at an AA meeting. Is it a better of two evils? Of course. Some people, it's controversial too.
Yeah,
But then what do we do with like, all right, now we can like pick our genes, pick what color hair our kids have, or suppress this gene, that gene, and when does it stop?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a number of reasons why, some folks, or including high achievers, are interested in this, because some people really feel like they truly do all the things like to the best of their ability, including like exercising consistently, trying to sleep well, like tracking their intake. But they find that the weight remains pretty stubborn. She said, I was at a BMI, body mass index, where if I had a single comorbidity, I would qualify under FDA indications. Done everything right, including diet and exercise, and it just felt strange that I should have to wait until I developed a disease before using a tool that might help. So I thought that was an interesting perspective because clearly this person's really busy, like managing the busy life, own business, and I know this person actually really is really active and lives in a really healthy way. So question then is, should somebody wait until you cross some sort of like arbitrary diagnostic threshold before you act?
Yeah. You can do what you want if you pay for it, right? But if you're
Yeah.
going to be trying to get a freebie off insurance or whatnot, then yeah, you got to play by other people's rules. If
Yeah.
you take mom and dad's money, you got to live by mom and dad's rules.
Yeah. A cost is like out of pocket cost is definitely an issue.
I knew at one point it was ridiculous, but I thought there was generics that came around, wasn't it?
I think it's still pretty
Okay.
high. Yeah.
Because
So
yeah,
that's why
I
if
knew
folks can
in
qualify.
in America it
Yeah.
was like ridiculous
Yeah.
cost, but if you went overseas and got this stuff, it was way cheaper. Of course, none of this is medical advice, guys, right? Like just a couple guys talking. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cost aside, what is the downside of this? What is the thing that's lurking that people
So weight loss isn't purely fat. So unless you are deliberate with like resistance training and sufficient protein intake, muscle loss can and oftentimes does occur. For a lot of our listeners, this actually matters because becoming lighter is not the same thing as becoming stronger or more metabolically resilient. I think the second downside, or one that a lot of people wonder about, is what happens when you stop taking the medication. How is it like long term? So in the clinical trials, discontinuation almost always leads to weight regain. And so then this raises a really like interesting planning question. Is this a short-term intervention? Is it a chronic therapy? Are you trying to use it as like a bridge, like your example of trying to help a drug to wean off their addiction?
yeah, it's a food addiction.
So most of the side effects are related to like gastrointestinal symptoms, nausea, reflux, bloating, constipation. That's pretty common initially. Oftentimes it improves with some dose adjustment or some time, but it is fairly common. And then you get some more like rare or serious side effects that have been documented, like pancreatitis, gallbladder issues,
But
and
how
then
much of that is like the guy was eating like crap for 20 years, then that manifested out, right? We don't know.
yeah, you don't know, right? There's a people who eat like crap, people
And then
who
they go on
already
GLP for 2 weeks, lose
yeah.
10 pounds, and then that chronic disease manifests and they just blame it on the GLP.
But I mean, the other side of it is that like when you reduce, let's say you're mostly losing weight, right? So like you're reducing all this fat around your chest and your abdomen. That's really quite beneficial to your health, right?
Yeah, fatty organs is
Yeah,
the big
yeah, yeah.
predictor of chronic.
And also, yeah, less fat around your lungs, so you'll probably be breathing easier, and like a whole host of health benefits too. So this is something you weigh, right? You know, you're going to be weighing like some of these pros and cons, and risks and benefits, right? Some of the pros are, hey, I'm reducing my cardiovascular morbidity, but yes, there's going to be some potential side effects to any medication. I think another when we're talking about like trade-offs or potential cons, it relates to the notion of identity, right? So if someone who's taking this medication is really like deep down thinks, well, I only lost weight or I only succeeded because of medication, that can erode your like sense of, I don't know, like self-efficacy,
Hey
right?
man, if I got a six pack, I don't care. Everybody's
Yeah.
different, right?
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other people, they might have the mindset of, hey, I'm just working smarter, not harder, right? Or I finally have medical science, I finally have biology like, working with me. So a lot depends on the internal narrative. So that oftentimes matters quite a bit as much as the external result. Yeah.
It reminds me, this is like weird on left field, but you and I got daughters, right?
Yeah.
And this is very triggering, but like what like if in their young 20s they got like breast implants or something like that, kind of did the same effect mentally.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to think about it,
Think about yes.
how some of this stuff, your body appearance is hugely correlation to the way you see yourself in the world, right? Like whatever
Absolutely.
it is there.
Yeah, how much of your identity, how much of your success in life do you tie to this, right? How much do you attach to something like body image or yeah, or physical trait? And
Right. And if that's just the edge you need to apply yourself on the next math test.
yeah,
Because what we've talked about on the past, like a lot of goals, it's all about your standards. If you feel
yeah,
like your standard is this, then
yeah,
that kind of top-down approach will impact everything you do,
yeah.
your self-image of yourself.
We talked about some of the potential cons or trade-offs. Let's go over some more of the potential upsides and the reasons why a lot of folks are interested. Like risk reduction for cardiovascular risk, right? Especially if you have a strong family history or if you have diabetes, right? And then we talked about the example of the high performer that I mentioned earlier who ended up using it because she didn't want to wait until things got worse. So to her, it felt more like an early intervention.
Yeah, an ounce of prevention is upon the
Yeah.
cure.
And interesting, she found that with the weight loss, she's actually able to do more physical activity. Right? Running's a little easier, certain aerobic exercises easier. So you can make the argument that, oh, okay, like I actually help to give some momentum to other healthy like life choices.
Or at least the image of their standard is I'm not the person who goes on the hike because I get tired halfway going up.
Yeah.
I'm that person.
Yeah.
I can
Hmm.
choose to do what I want
Right.
because I have the ability
Yeah.
there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what your medical opinion is on non-GLPs, like other peptides are like more growth minded, muscle building, or there's like the Wolverine stack, right? They'll inject it in places like your Achilles tendon
Yeah.
for growth.
Yeah.
To me, those are a little bit on the dangerous side if you're freaked out about cancer and stuff like that. Whereas the GLPs, it seems like the opposite end of that spectrum. But I don't know. What's
Hmm.
your take on all this bro science that I'm putting out there? Are they still going off of this state where cancer is just random and non-curable or you don't know when it's going to pop up to some extent?
Yeah, I mean, it's the best explanation, I think, that there is truly multifactorial, right? So yeah, you have genetic causes, you have environmental factors, lifestyle factors. We know that
Yeah.
individual stress plays a big role. Poor sleep, we talked about this before in other episodes where we talked about like the importance of sleep plays a role because during sleep is when your body does a lot of the repair, including the natural like, cancer fighting cells, right? So you reduce your sleep, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? So people who go through a lot of sleep deprivation earlier in life, it's no surprise that later on in life you have a statistically much greater chance of developing some sort of cancer. So yeah, it's a combination of all of the above, right? It's like diet, lifestyle, environmental factors, some of which, like, a lot of which we actually still are trying to understand, right? Yeah, so it's yeah, multifactorial, I would say.
But generally speaking, there's not really any huge glaring cons, is what I'm hearing here.
However, still to be seen like what the
Yeah.
long-term data is.
But
So no,
they've been researching this thing for 2 or 3 decades now, right?
yeah, but it's one thing to be researching it, and then another thing to actually have it out
Mm,
in used on a mass basis in the public, right?
yeah.
So, for example, like when they did rodent studies, they found an increased risk of like thyroid cancer, but we haven't yet seen that in humans yet. But it's something to look for, and we just don't know. We don't know if what the data is going to say 5, 10, like 30 years from now, right?
I'm getting a Cybertruck because it has the full
Yeah,
self-driving thing,
yeah.
but they're still training it with a lot of road miles. I think they
Mm,
said they got like billions of miles, but I'm like, I feel confident I'm safe
yeah.
in that thing. But it, like you said, it would be nice to get a little bit more like mileage out on the road, or for this in this circumstance.
I think I would say Tesla probably has that like first mover advantage, and they have probably the most data just with all the cars on the road to be in a position to at least try to perfect it. One thing I do want to touch on is actually something that even Oprah Winfrey touched on because she went on this medication, and it's this issue of cognitive bandwidth. So probably the biggest benefit that I've heard from actually people who are on this is that they describe this relief from like, constant internal food chatter. Right? So, I mean, fewer internal debates on, hey, should I eat this or not, which leads to less mental fatigue, which leads to just more clarity and bandwidth to think about other things. So you,
I just wear the same clothes, the same shirt, and I buy a lot of it, that aspect for
It's just one less thing to have to think about and worry about. One could make the argument, especially if you are like, let's say, like a busy executive or just someone who has to make a lot of high stakes decisions. Reclaiming mental bandwidth is important. Right? Now you're potentially talking about increased productivity and just increased capacity to think and focus on the things that you want to think about rather than having to think about, do I want to eat that? Do I want to eat that cookie or not?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what a lot of people will do in this circumstance is do the intermittent fasting thing in the morning. I've been doing that for like over a decade, but no, recently I got my blood drawn because I was feeling not that great the last quarter. So I think I overdid the intermittent fasting thing because my reverse T went up, spiked this last quarter. So that's a sign that you're taxing it a little bit.
Yeah.
I use that trick, the intermittent fasting of, oh, I don't have to worry about what we're having for lunch or breakfast today.
Mm.
I'm just fasting. But
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm a big advocate to get your blood work drawn and talking to a professional and then go through everything. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And I think your example is also like a really good illustration of why like there can be no blanket recommendations because everyone is different, right? So I know like you do CrossFit, I've seen some of your videos, like you do some like pretty impressive stuff. Someone who is just doing a lot, for example, the intermittent fasting is probably not like always a good idea. Right. So someone who is training a lot or someone who's doing, let's say, endurance sports, you probably could end up putting yourself in a hole if you're actually skipping that meal. Yeah, because you need that fuel for like effective training. Yeah, because your body needs it. Yeah, you need enough fuel to be able to train effectively. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It's a good point to just go get your labs checked out especially if you're not feeling well. Yeah, because there is no like one size fits all like health recommendation. Right, so besides the issue of cognitive bandwidth, like, and having more space to think about things that actually matter to you, the folks I've talked to also talk about how being on this medication almost gave them this momentum, right? Because the weight loss oftentimes improves your energy. It can improve things like your confidence, especially if you feel like you're looking better, right? And this momentum can oftentimes spill over into things like your work, your relationships, training, right? And especially for folks who are like high performers, like this psychological lift is just as meaningful as the physical benefits. Yeah.
so like I was looking at some of my fasting glucose and
Yeah.
A1C. My fasting insulin dropped to 3.1, which is extremely low.
Low.
But then that's like things got way too low, and that's what turned my
Mm,
shit upside down, and then
mm.
my reverse T spiked. So that's a sign of like overtraining, or you're not getting enough sleep, or I think it was for me, it was not enough calories,
Yeah.
is what I was guessing. But I think that's certain things like I could see like the case you just mentioned is the guy loses some weight, feels a little bit better, his mental health was a little bit better, maybe he sleeps better.
Yeah.
Now his belly fat is less bigger there, so his testosterone goes up. And to me, my understanding is like testosterone is one of the big pillars of you get that going, it kind of raises the other biomarkers.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, that's just bro science
And
there.
then the more adipose tissue you have, your testosterone, all else being equal, tends to be lower.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do they do it for drug addicts? Is it just for withdrawal symptoms or?
So for something like benzo or alcohol withdrawal, a lot of times like you'll give a more like long acting, like a low like a for example like sometimes you give like a long acting benzodiazepine, which has a less addictive effect, and you just gradually like wean them down. And I think similarly that's the case for other substance abuse. But again,
So
I'm not a substance abuse
so,
specialist by
so
any
they're
means.
treating the urge or the withdrawal symptom?
You want to do both, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the GLP, it seems like it's treating the urge, right?
For GLP-1s, you're specifically targeting the hunger cues.
Ooh, I got
Yeah,
my hamburger, right?
yeah,
Yummy.
yeah.
That's what it's
Mm.
blocking. So you're not getting that jazz off of the meal coming, and then when you
Mm.
eat it, you're not getting that. It's blocking that happy curve is what's happening.
So you're more likely to be full earlier, and yeah, you're not going to want just want to eat as much.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think if it's stuff like I've never done this before, but like they say like when you do like mushrooms or like you do one of these shaman retreats, They always say to be intentional going through it, and then you get some realization from it. In a way, it's the same thing, but a lot controlled and maybe slower here. If you
Yeah.
can go through this in a kind of like experiential thing, and what am I feeling when I'm eating this? This is what it
Mm.
feels like when you're not juiced. We know what happens when people get off of these things. So the traditional way of just getting on the pill and getting off or getting on it just isn't going to work. There's something else that needs to happen. And I, for one, like I struggle with this myself. It is a bit of addiction, and it's the hardest thing here.
If the goal is to not have this be a chronic medication or something that you have to be on to inject yourself with every month for the rest of your life, something you have to change one of the other variables at least. Right. And that's, I think some people who are on this are, what they say, if the cost of this is, I gotta be on it for the rest of my life, then so be it. Others are, you know what, like use this as a bridge, right? Think like we talked about the momentum, right? Okay, I'm lighter now. I can do more exercise without getting winded. So if I'm able to do more exercise, then maybe I can start getting to a place where I won't need as much, and perhaps I can wean down the dose eventually and come off of it. Yeah.
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 I don't know.
But just things to think about. And it touches on, again, I think we talked about it in the very beginning of this episode, is we live in an age of leverage, right? Technological leverage in the form of AI, for example, financial leverage, and when we're talking about investing. And now we have biological leverage, right? So I think every high achiever will eventually face the same tension when it comes to evaluating things that could potentially be used as leverage, right? So like we just get a little philosophical here. We all would probably benefit from some friction in our lives, right? Because otherwise things would just be too easy, right? But you don't want so much friction that like, you really can't get anywhere. So I think a lot of that tension that like we'll all face at some point is, okay, what friction is formative? Like what type of friction is destructive? Because friction builds capacity, it builds resilience, right? But too much friction can cause burnout and can actually like defeat you. So how much friction is the right amount, right? Like how much friction do you need to be able to have some growth? But you also don't want to remove all the friction because it just creates some
Yeah.
like weak people. Right?
I'll use a different word, like hormesis is the medical term, right? Where you put something under stress. You can't just eat a super clean diet, no different than your kids if you just helicopter pilot everything around them. Or they call
Yeah.
them lawnmower parents because you make the grass really cut and
Yeah.
clean in front of them.
Yeah.
We all know that doesn't really work.
I think, yeah, hormesis it describes like that whole adage of like a small amount of stress actually makes you stronger. Like, too much stress like harms you, but no stress at all makes you weaker. So it's kind of like dose dependent. Yeah, and this is why when you lift weights, it actually damages your muscle fibers a little bit, but then your body repairs and gets stronger, right? But if you train too much resistance, then you're probably going to end up with injury or overtraining. Yeah? And then no training at all will definitely lead to muscle loss. So how do you find that nice balance where you do have like enough resistance, but it's in a good dose that actually makes you stronger?
Maybe side note on this. Do you know what the half-life is on this thing? Because you only take it once a month. Is that
Yeah.
how it works?
Yeah, it's like a monthly injection.
And do they tell you to cycle these things? 3 months on, three injections, and then a month off or something like that? I just don't know.
So you can tell I actually don't take this myself. It's actually once a week injections, and the half lives are about 5 to 7 days. Yeah,
Okay, and that makes
yeah, yeah.
sense. Yeah. So you're pulsing there, but then what is the cycling do they recommend on this thing?
Cycling. No, I think my understanding is
You can keep doing it.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure the doctors know way more than us.
In case, yeah, folks are wondering, no, I do not prescribe this stuff. That's not what we do on the show.
Yeah.
Typically, like with a lot of medications, you start at a low dose and then you increase the dose every 4 weeks, and then you try to move towards a maximum tolerated dose. And this is helpful for any GI side effects as well.
Yeah, yeah. But I think at some point, I like your idea of the bridge, right? If you did it for a month or two and then you got off of it for a complete month, you could see if you've got your portion control dialed in
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah,
Maybe once it goes off the rails, the urges come back even more. But then, yeah, then it's a mental, it really is a mental thing. And
yeah. And I think this is why they don't actually cycle these, right? It's not like you take it for 8 weeks, then you're off for 4 weeks and whatnot, because again, we're talking about the mechanism of the drug is tied to appetite suppression, right? And
Yeah.
we know that the half-life is 5 to 7 days, about. So yeah, if you stop that, then like your appetite's just gonna come
Yeah,
back.
and that's why I have a lot of empathy to people. I'm like it myself, right? Like the urges, the voices, it's no different than like schizophrenia. You're just like you have to have that yummy food,
Yeah.
and it's just you can't get away from it. And just like a schizophrenic walking
Mm.
around
Yeah.
downtown LA or
Yeah.
wherever. It's really no different. It's more of you happen to be a functioning addict. Somebody told me recently, like, what's the difference between an addict and this is a rock and roll guy. An addict is somebody who you choose to, you give up your other goals and responsibilities and you chase that other. Drug addicts, they'll shoot up and they'll do their drugs and then they won't take their kids to school or do anything with them the next day. They'll let go of their responsibilities.
Yeah.
A functioning addict, as we all know, can carry a buzz and get on with life and even trade stocks a lot better.
Yeah.
So I think most of us with food neuroses are somewhat functioning addicts
Mm.
are addicts, right? I'm just gonna call it what it is.
Yeah. Some of us are more high functioning than others, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I think we
Yeah.
beat that one to death.
Yeah. Maybe yeah, so figure it. And again, just to review some of the practical takeaways. So number one, just clarify your objective. What is your objective? Is it about like actual like risk reduction for things like diabetes and cardiovascular risk? Is it for cosmetic and aesthetic reasons? There's nothing wrong with that, but be aware of what it is for you, right? Is it to increase your energy, right? Is it social pressure? Just whatever you do, just make sure you have clarity. Number two, make sure I would say if you're using these like GLP-1 therapy, make sure you lift consistently, make sure you get enough protein, especially so because you're not going to have that natural urge to eat as many like macronutrients, right? So you got to make sure to monitor your body composition, protect your sleep, maintain your strength.
Or put in resistance training so your body,
Yeah,
this is bro science again too, but
yeah.
maybe it will choose not to cannibalize the muscle, but go after the fat stores.
Yeah. So just yeah, be really conscientious and intentional about like this medication should help you achieve good things that you want to do, right? Eating well, exercising, right? Like it should not by any means be a replacement for these. Right? Again, there's a big difference between weight loss and actually being healthy. Right? Third, make sure you plan before you start. Ask yourself, what's my maintenance strategy? What happens if I stop? What metrics do or actually matter to me? And this goes back to what's your reason for doing this? What is your why? And number four, make sure you have a healthy narrative in your head, right? Because if you're walking around thinking, like I couldn't have done any of this without this medication. That can lead to some like mental fragility, right? So it might be better if your story is, okay, I did my research and I'm using the available tools to me intelligently, right? I'm leveraging this in a healthy and knowledgeable way. Okay? And like with any forms of leverage, whether it's financial or technological, you got to ask yourself, hey, does this tool actually improve your outcomes? Does it build my resilience? And does it align with my values? And so these questions apply to anything ranging from investing, parenting, career decisions, technology. So treat this the same way as if you're evaluating any tool that you're using in other realms of life.
Yeah, I like your usage of the word leverage there, right? Because in the
Yeah.
financial world, leverage is debt and it's a tool. It can be used to do great things and it can also put you on the wrong side of the deal too. And then I guess like maybe to close things out, when people go on vacation, some people just spend who don't have money, just spend. They just go off the rails. And I always thought that was kind of not right, or maybe I was above that. But in a way, maybe I do the same thing with eating when we go on vacation too. So
Mm.
I guess maybe just a reminder, just be kind to everybody out there. Everybody's dealing with something.
Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
is.
Yes.
If
If
you
it's
don't,
not food, it's something else.
yeah, and if you don't know what it is, you've probably got a big problem there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, to our listeners, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support.
Yeah.